I'd like to share with you what you can gain from this wisdom of Kabbalah. At its core, there is really one teaching that encompasses the entire wisdom. The Kabbalists teach that our world was created, and we, each one of us, came into this world for one purpose. In Kabbalistic terms, it's called lehitiv lenivra'av, which means that the light of the Creator wants every single one of us to have complete goodness, complete fulfillment in our life. The entire purpose of the creation of this world was really for that purpose, so that the world as a whole and the individual can receive and maintain and grow joy, happiness, and fulfillment. Well, if we know that that's where this process started, why is the world that we see, and often the lives we ourselves go through, so different than that? Why is there so much pain, so much suffering, so much chaos in the world and in our lives? And the answer really is the wisdom of Kabbalah. In the physical world, there are rules, physical rules that we have to live according to in order to survive. There's the law of gravity. We know that you don't jump off tall buildings because gravity will pull you down. Imagine if you weren't aware of that law. You would find yourself in a lot of trouble relatively quickly. And the Kabbalists teach us just as there are physical laws and rules that govern this world, there are also spiritual rules. Knowing them, understanding them, and understanding how they interact and influence our lives is the purpose of the study of the wisdom of Kabbalah. These spiritual rules that govern our lives and our world influence us in greater ways even than the physical laws that we know. And therefore the purpose of the study of Kabbalah is to begin to understand really how our world operates, really the spiritual rules that govern our lives. When we understand them and begin to act accordingly, we can begin the process of coming to the life that we are meant to have. A life with ever-growing fulfillment, with ever-growing blessings. One of the most basic Kabbalistic lessons is a concept known as similarity of form. We asked, why is it that we don't experience life as we are meant to experience it? Why the world doesn't experience life in the way that it is meant to experience it? The Kabbalists teach that all the goodness that is in our world, all the joy that we feel, the love that we feel, the happiness that we feel, comes from an energy that is called the light of the Creator. We've all experienced it. When we experience anything good in life, we are tasting, we are receiving, we are connecting to this light of the Creator. The Kabbalists teach that in order to receive more of that light, and therefore more of its manifestations of love, of happiness, of fulfillment in our lives, we have to become like that light. In spiritual terms, when you behave, when you act, when you transform and become more like the light of the Creator, you receive, you have more of that light, and therefore you have more of that fulfillment, more of that joy, more of that happiness in your life. The Kabbalists teach that we are born with two natures. One that is called a desire to receive for the self alone, sometimes referred to as the ego, the desire to always make sure that I am taken care of, always make sure that I receive for myself. That nature separates us from the light of the Creator. There is another nature that we have. The Kabbalists refer to it as coming from our soul, a desire to share, a desire to give to others. That desire, that nature, connects us with the light of the Creator. At its core, the entire wisdom of Kabbalah is to enable that process of transformation from the ego, desire to receive for the self-alone nature with which we are born, which separates us from the light of the Creator, into a nature that is more akin to the light of the Creator, a desire to share, a nature of sharing, of caring for others, of doing more for others. When we become more of that kind of person, when that nature really is the stronger nature that operates within us, we become more like the light of the Creator, and therefore we receive more of that light, those blessings into our life. And therefore at the core of the teaching of Kabbalah is a process of transformation, a process of change, from an ego, or what the Kabbalists call desire to receive for the self-alone nature, into a nature of desire to share. Now the purpose of that transformation is simple. The more I am like the light of the Creator, the more I am a person who shares, the more I am a person who cares more for others than for myself. The more I am like the light of the Creator, the more of that light comes into my life, the more joy, happiness, and fulfillment that I can receive. We've spoken in general terms about the process of transformation that the wisdom of Kabbalah is meant to give us. The reality is, though, that the process of transformation is not an easy one. There are people who their desire for spiritual study is a basic one. They want to know some more. They aren't necessarily interested in doing the work, and sometimes difficult work, of transformation. And the truth is that the wisdom of Kabbalah is not for those people. There is the great promise of Kabbalah. If you truly delve into this study and use its wisdom and tools to transform, you can have the life that you are meant to have, a life with never-ending fulfillment. But there is difficult, constant work and constant study that has to be a part of that process. If you're willing to truly delve into this wisdom, if you're willing to do the difficult work that you will have to do to transform, you'll be able to receive the great blessings of this wisdom. So that is the purpose of the wisdom of Kabbalah. It gives us an understanding of our world, an understanding of ourselves, and it gives us the tools that we need to transform, to change, to become the person we are meant to become, and to come into the life that we are meant to live. Now, this wisdom has been around forever. It has been around even before the beginning of our world. The Kabbalists teach that when the Creator decided to create this world, He knew that in order for humanity and the individual to go through a process of transformation, you need to have understanding. You need to have wisdom. And therefore, this wisdom of Kabbalah has been around even before the creation of our world. It is the wisdom that was meant for every person to have in order to understand and to grow and to change. In this world, throughout history, there have been only a chosen few who had access to this wisdom. In every generation, there was at least one person who held this wisdom and taught it to one student. Therefore, the word Kabbalah means to receive. It also speaks of the history of this wisdom. For most of its history, it was a secret wisdom, passed on from teacher to student and so on. About 2,000 years ago, one of the greatest written revelations of this wisdom came about. And that came through a great Kabbalist known as Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. He revealed in written form, for the first time in history, this wisdom. That revelation is what we have today and is known as the Zohar. It is many volumes of wisdom. And then again, it is the first time in history when the totality of these secrets were written down. But even then, the world was not ready, and these secrets, the Zohar, went into hiding. It was concealed. And really only in the past 100 years has this wisdom truly been brought to the masses. The Kabbalah Center was founded in the 1920s by a great Kabbalist, the greatest Kabbalist of our generation, Rav Yehuda Ashlag. And for the first time in history, he brought the secrets of the Zohar, translated them from their original Aramaic into Hebrew with a commentary. And his work continued, writing books and teaching, bringing this wisdom to the masses. He made it his life's goal, and he explained that the only way that pain, suffering, death, and war and destruction can be removed from our world is when this wisdom is revealed to the masses. And therefore, when he passed away, his student, Rav Yehuda Tzvi Brandwein, continued the process of teaching, of disseminating, of writing books. But the reality is that until the early 70s, when my parents, Rav and Karen Berg, took this wisdom, translated into all the languages of the world, sent teachers to all over the world, has there truly been the ability for every person, no matter where they are, no matter what their background, to have access to this wisdom. And over the past 50 years, centers have been opened in almost every major city in the world. In every language of the world, you can find a book on Kabbalah. But now, through the technology of the internet, you don't even have to be next to a center. No matter where you are in the world, through Kabbalah.com, you can begin your journey into this wisdom. You can begin this journey into achieving the life for which you were created. A life with unending and ever-growing joy, happiness, and fulfillment. I hope you take the opportunity and begin your process of transformation today.
Good evening. Tonight, hopefully we'll all have a good experience. And every time I get a chance to speak, and I try to do my best, I travel around the world, from Colombia to Israel and different places in the world to try to share this wisdom that I've learned since I was very, very young. My Kabbalah teacher, my personal Kabbalah teacher, are the founders of the center, Rav and Karen Berg. So as a young boy, very young boy, I started being imbued with these concepts, and I feel like I need to be and do what I can to share them with as many people as possible. The first place where I would like to start, I always go back to original Kabbalistic writings, because in truth, anyone could get up in here and start talking. And just because they're in the Kabbalah Center doesn't mean that it's actually Kabbalah. So I always try to bring and ground everything that's said and that's taught back to its sources, back to the masters of Kabbalah who've been around for generations. In the beginning of Yudah Ashleg's study of the levels of energy of the universe, he called it the study of the 10 dimensions, 10 levels of energy. Talks about עלה ברצונו הפשוט לברוא עולמות ולהציל הנאצלים. הייתה זאת סיבת בריאת העולמות. Talks about the creation of this universe. The creation of the universe, creation of even our own personal universe as an individual, us as an individual when we come into this world. As a child, we don't really have our own, call it desire. We don't have our own desire, right? We cry, we get fed, we cry, this and that. Our desire is what's necessary, only what's necessary. To eat, to sleep, eat, sleep, eat, sleep. I have 5 kids, so I've gone through this whole routine. Eat, sleep for the first 5 years, and 5 kids, so it's been like 15 years of eat, sleep business. So, at some point in a child's life, my oldest is 13, at some point in a child's life, he starts building a desire. Wanting something that is not just as a reaction to the universe. Sometimes the reason the parents here, especially if you have a child in high school, the reason why in high school kids start, call it rebellions, call it going against the system or going against authority, whatever that is. The reason why is because they're starting to build their desire as an individual. A child is looking for who they are as opposed to who their parents think they should be. They start growing their desire, wanting. That's the essence and the core, according to Kabbalah, according to Rav Ashlag. The movement and the places we need to get to in our life are directly built up from our desire. Again, sometimes we grow up and either we have the Christian, Jewish guilt of having stuff or wanting stuff. Having in this world is good. The question is what you do with it. But having a desire to have is the first place we need to be. We need to be constantly increasing desire. It reminds me of these 2 guys fishing. These 2 guys fishing every day. They fish. The one guy takes all kinds of fish. The guy next to him, whatever comes up, if it's mackerel, if it's whatever comes, halibut, whatever comes up, he takes. The dude next to him, every fish he picks up, measures the fish. He measures. Takes a tape measure and measures the fish. The smallest fish he keeps, and anything that's big he throws away. So the guy, this happens a few days and he doesn't understand. Does he have a special recipe? Is it a special ancient old something, spell or something? He says, dude, what's up with the throwing away the fish? He says, you know, at home, my wife, she loves to cook fish. But a pot is 12 inches. So whatever fits in the pot, I keep. Whatever's too big, I throw away. The guy looks at me and says, dude, get a bigger pot. You can fit all the fish. And the idea is we could stay with the pot we have, with the life we have, with the situation we're in, or, and if you're here, maybe it's because you want to switch from one part to the other, or increase desire. What kind of desire? We'll get to. What we do with it, we'll get to. But the beginning place of being something in this world, being something in this world, is having a desire. Rav Ashlag, again, who's the source of most of our wisdom, he's my father's teacher's teacher. So he's like my father's grand teacher, right? So he's not my father's teacher, my father's teacher's teacher. 2 generations, always like the grand teacher. So Rav Ashlag says that we came here to have a purposeful life. In essence, there are 2 kinds of beings that we could be. We could be one part of being that has no purpose in life. We just live, we react to what happens, we exist through life, and then we leave this world, and maybe we leave a little tombstone, so here lived so-and-so. Life number 2, alternative life, is having a purposeful life, where what we do, even what we do at work, what seems to be what we have to do, or sometimes with our family is what we have to do. Whatever that have to do part of our life can still be purposeful. That our life is a lot more meaningful than just being in this world. Hopefully it's a concept that we intuitively understand. Must be. We intuitively understand that it has to be purposeful. You know, those 2 guys fishing. So a few days later, these 2 guys are fishing like in a town in Mexico. And comes these American businessmen to them. And they say, guys, why are you fishing all day? He says, well, what else would we do? He says, why don't you get a job? He says, a job, and then what? So, well, if you get a job, you can make more money. You could leave the place you live and get a bigger house. He says, and then what? Well, then you could start your own business and make its own money, and you could have even more. And maybe get another house somewhere else. He says, and then what? Well, then you could manage a few franchises and then make even more money. And then they go on. He says, and then what? Well, then you could do whatever you want. He says, well, that's what we're doing now. We're fishing all day, right? So that's a non-purposeful life. You just, one thing is leading to another, so eventually you could do nothing again. Right? We start off, we're born doing nothing, and the only purpose of getting a job and making money and then making more money or more money, even though in this economy we just want to exist, but even we have the choice that we could do whatever we want. If we got to the place in our life where we could do whatever we want, it should be for a purpose, and not just so we could do whatever we want. It needs to lead to something. Our life must be leading to somewhere. Kabbalah also tells us that some of the challenges that are brought into our life are there to lead us, for us not to forget that there's a system to this universe. We weren't just dumped here and just figured things out. There's actually a system. There are wisdoms. Kabbalah is one of them. There is wisdom available that could move us, that could guide us, that we're not just here. That A, there's a purpose, and B, there's a path towards that purpose. And there are times in each one of our lives that we know there's a purpose. If you have a child, the moment they're born, okay, if I just came for that, God's blessed me. And then something else happened. Or someone's in a jam and we help them out. And You know, if I was just there for that guy right now, feel good, right? There are times in our life when we really deeply understand that there's a purpose. We really know and truly internalize. Then we wake up in the morning and we still have the same old job, the same old this and the same old that. And we're like, whatever. You know, you just coast through life and, just cope through the day, just hope nothing really bad happens and finish so you could clock out and go home, watch football, have a beer, and go to sleep, right? So something, and each one may have a different realm of that, but just a non-purposeful kind of existence. And it doesn't mean that it's a 24/7. It doesn't mean that it's an everyday. It doesn't mean that it's an all the time. But it means that there's a driving force behind our life. That there is some place that we are going to. We are not just whatevering our existence. And the force behind the drive, behind the purpose, is our desire. There are actions. There are decisions that we make that shrink our desire. Because if you ask a logical person, what do you want in life? They'll have a whole list of things they want. And then you ask them what they have, and a lot of what's on the list they don't have. So the question is, what's missing? Why isn't there any linking stuff between what you want and what you have? Right? Every single person here has something they want that they don't have. Why not? What is blocking us? And now I'm not talking about any pie-in-the-sky dreams, anything that's actually never possible. I don't focus, and I would love to drive. I'm probably never going to get there. So I know, okay, I'm never going to drive. There's certain things I'm never going to get to. Grew up, I thought I was captain of my high school basketball team, and I had these dreams. But you then realize that you're not 7'1", and you can't dunk, and you can't play defense, so you're not going to make it. So there are things that just never going to happen, right? Just never going to happen. You have to dump them away. Then if we're actually sensible people, and we have a desire, and we have actual actionable dreams, things that can happen, the question is, why not? Why don't they happen? Kabbalah says, or Vashlik says, that there are things that we do that limit our desire. Even if they're unconscious, they limit our desire. When we end up focusing too much on us, when an action happens that's sort of suddenly happens in our life, that's something that's not so good. We get news that something not so good happens. There are two natural reactions. There are two natural reactions to that. One natural reaction, which almost all the time is, it's why it happened. Why did this happen? Woe is me. Why did this happen? In Kabbalah, we call that victim consciousness. Asking ourselves the question of why did this happen? That is one form of existence. Another reaction is, okay, it's done. What can I do about it? When we react, and if we ask the question when something happens at work, we get blamed for something that we didn't do. Or somehow, it turns up, it's our fault, but we didn't do anything about it. Just those things that almost look like they're not in our control. And when something happens, we're the one, or we get into a situation where, someone just randomly hits our car. Randomly something happens to us. Reaction number one is why? Why me? Why not everybody else? Does God have a voodoo doll with my name on it and stick pins, every time we get a little too comfortable, just every few hours, boom. That's one kind of consciousness. Consciousness number two is, okay, it happened. What can I do about it? What can I do about it? Consciousness, number one, is victim consciousness. But the problem is not just our reaction. The problem is victim consciousness shrinks our desire, shrinks us. And it's not conscious. But when we're only thinking about why, or even worse, what's stage 2? You know, there's all kinds of stages in dealing with stuff. Stage 2 of blaming, of why. Stage 2 of asking the question of why did this happen is it must be somebody's fault. And I'm going to find whose fault it is. It's blaming somebody, or finding that somebody else. Like somehow, if I do find the culprit, whether it's God or Joe or Mark or Jessica, if I find them, it's not personal, so I'm just throwing out names. If I find them, somehow that makes me feel better. Somehow that makes the situation go away. But yes, think about it. Think about when something comes up and we've found who's to blame. Somehow it makes us feel better. Somehow it makes the pain just a little less. Does it actually change something? Absolutely not. But we still have to go to work the next day and deal with the fallout of that situation. The answer is yes. But finding blame makes us feel better and it alleviates us. But it doesn't actually deal with the situation. Reminds me of the story of a king who's in his boat, in the royal boat, and he puts his hand out and his royal ring with the seal and with his coat of arms has fallen into the water. He stops the boat, lines up his advisors. Lines up his advisors and says, whoever goes down and gets my ring, I give them whatever they want. Whatever, he says, listen clearly, whatever you want, you could have. You could have my jewels, you could have the gold, silver, houses, you could have even my palace. I'll give you whatever. That's my father's, my grandfather's, my great-grandfather's, all the way up. Whatever you want, just give me that. Nobody moves. Why? Because the piranhas and alligators in the water. So yes, they can have whatever they want, but who's willing to risk their life? 2 minutes later, one of the advisors jumps in, attacked and all this, brings back the ring, gets out, he's all bloody. They fix him up, they patch him up. Finally comes to the king, he says, here's your ring. King says, dude, you can have whatever you want, and I mean whatever you want. He says, just ask. He says, Mr. King, I only want to know one thing. I want to know who pushed me into the water. So he could have had absolutely. He could have had absolutely. We laugh. We do the same thing. We get satisfied. Satisfied with blaming someone as opposed to figure out what we could do about it. It's one of those things that shrink our desire, causes us to maybe sometimes feel depressed and focus on ourselves. Because we don't ask what I could do. We don't try to push ourselves into action. We're busy trying to figure out who did what to us. We're promoting our own inaction. Kabbalah believes in light, not physical light, but that the world operates with a positive source of energy. Just like the sun has light, just like there's physical light, there's a spiritual light. Light, energy, positive energy from the universe can only come in, that I do know where it is, that can only come in where there's a place that's ready to accept that light inside us. ולהוציא לאור שלמות פעולותיו ושמותיו וכינוייו, אז זאת הייתה סיבת בריאת העולמות. The reason of the creation was for the light force that fills the universe to fill each and every part of the creation, to fill each and every one of us. That is the purpose of creation, for us to have fulfillment. It may not be everything that we want, but it's definitely going to be what we need. Definitely going to be what we need. That is the purpose of our being brought into this world. That's our purpose of creation. That is why we were brought onto this planet. But when we promote inaction by blame, by being a victim and not doing, we're forced to have less light, and we open ourselves up for darkness. So it's not enough that something happens randomly from the universe, but relative to our reaction, we'll figure out what's the next step for us. It could either be an opportunity to bring light into our life, or it's an opportunity, unfortunately, for us to become even more reactive, for us to even be less open for the positive influences of the universe. So, part of what we do in Kabbalah is just share some of the laws that exist in the universe. Some of the ways that each and every one of us can connect to more energy. Now, whether you've studied any form of spirituality or not, sometimes you walk into a restaurant and you love your table, and sometimes something just feels off. And the table's not exactly, maybe somebody had left some negative energy. A couple may have just had a fight, a couple may have just broken up. Or, alternatively, a guy may have just proposed to his girlfriend. And all that energy that innately we know exists, and some people just give us bad vibes. Some people great vibes. Some people that we just don't know. We're online, at the supermarket. We're online at Ralph's. Someone just creeps us out. I hope it's not just me. People in the universe. Some people send off a good energy. Some people send off a bad energy. Energy is something that's easily able to connect to. And what Kabbalah tries to develop systems is to create a space and a light and a place of desire to increase inside, to be able to manifest that purposeful life in the best possible way. In the best possible way. Story about a Kabbalist, just to ingrain this kind of idea. Story about a Kabbalist who took his student, and they were staring at a window. They stared at a window for 15 minutes, and then the student starts crying. The master goes. The student goes back, hangs with the rest of the friends, the students of Kabbalah. And the students were, what were you talking about by the window? He says, the master showed me all the light that will come when the end of days, when peace will be in the world. So they said to him, if you saw the light that will be in the world, if you saw the moments of peace on earth, why were you crying? He says, well, he also showed me all the pain and suffering that the world will have to go through until there will be peace. For us personally, there are systems. Kabbalah is one of them. No one's here to tell you Kabbalah is the only system. There are a few. I've studied some of them. It's great to be on a path that's leading us. That end of our own personal pain and suffering, the end of our global pain and suffering, will be. The question is, how long, and what are we doing to shorten that process? I went last week to the Vatican. huge, you could see all the Sistine Chapel. I went to the whole Vatican. Great, kind of. And you go throughout Europe, and there's huge cathedrals. And in the past, the people who built these cathedrals knew that when I start building, there is absolutely no way in hell that I'll be there when they finish it. It's going to take longer to build than my lifetime. But you know what? They built it anyway. In today's world, we don't just have to start the process to end pain and suffering, to start the process to end my own pain, and maybe my children will benefit. But in today's world, with the technology that's available, with the wisdom that's available, the Kabbalah that's available, we could start building the cathedral, and we could finish building it in our own lifetime. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful night.
One of the questions that we're asked a lot is what does it mean to be spiritual? You know, there are people that have been spiritual. If you meet them and say, me, I've been spiritual all my life. I understand. But I think we need to understand several things, from my perspective anyway, that there are many things that we call gifts. There are people that are born clairvoyant. There are people that are born with tremendous intuition, and people that are born with certain gifts. True, they are beyond the 5 sense gifts, but they're gifts. Our idea, our concept of a spiritual person is somebody who has gone through challenges in their life and have overcome those challenges and come closer to understanding the essence of why we are here. For instance, a spiritual person would never say, I've had it, there's nothing left in life. You know, I've lost my job, I've separated from my family, my friends have left me, I'm done. A spiritual person would say, okay, I understand that this door is closed to me. Where is that other door that's opening? What is it that I need to learn from all these things that have happened that I have to grow beyond? Well, this is my challenge. How do I take that challenge and make more out of my life because of it? How many times have we in our travels met people who've gotten ill, who had terrible things happen to them, and through those terrible experiences became more and more connected to the light, to the positive things in life, through the negative. I've said this before, I say it again. The only way to grow is through the negative channel. And there's the story that I always love to tell about somebody. There's a piece of coal. A piece of coal put on the table through the centuries remains coal. But if you take that same coal and put it under tons and tons of pressure, then and only then do you get a diamond. In order to be that diamond, you need the pressure. You need the things that happen, that evolve around you, that changes the karma that you came into this life with. Remember, there's plenty of crusts of lifetimes before that we're here with. The environment around us, the people that we see, our family, our friends, are all there as part of this symphony to make our life into the thing it needs to be. And those people along our way are people that help us grow to find the real essence of our spiritual nature. And that's what I call people, spiritual people, or people that work on themselves. You can't have a bad temper and say, well, I'm a spiritual person. You can't have evil in your life. What's evil? When you are jealous of somebody else, or you're envious of somebody else, who loses? You lose. Because that envy and jealousy is the negative for you. It takes the place of your energy and of your light. Yes, it bothers the other person, but more than anything else, that negative that you generate forward brings that negative back into your own life, and you lose. You lose. The punishment for all of those negative things that we do in our life, the punishment is the envy, is the jealousy, is the anger. That's the punishment. If we understand that, it's such a tremendous tool to know that the moment I look at somebody else and say, why don't I have that? I'm causing inside my own framework that lack to remain. For me. Wouldn't it be great if we could understand the tool that way? Once we do that, then we can see the beginnings of another way of looking at life. And when we open that channel, when we throw the ball against the wall, and we realize with certainty that that ball is going to bounce back, that ball of caring for somebody else, that ball of being there for someone when you don't want to be there, that bounce back, that ability to know with absolute certainty that that negative that I put into somebody's life will become my negative. It will take something from my life. You know, every person has an aura, has a level around them. And every person has a energy field which is right below the aura. And every time we create a negative action of any kind, we make a little hole. Like in an ozone layer, you'll find holes. When those holes become big enough, we wind up with serious problems. Sometimes it's called disease. Sometimes it's called separation. Sometimes it's called death, and sometimes it's called by many other names. But the only name we really need to know is the name that says that I'm the captain of my ship. I'm responsible whether I grow or whether I don't grow. A spiritual person is somebody that accounts his life in the way that he responds, in the ability to change things that are through the consciousness that everything that is there for me as an individual to grow, be it positive or negative.
Welcome. My name is Chaim Cohen. I'm a student of Rav and Karen Berg, and I've been teaching and meeting students in the last 16 years in different centers around the world, in the Middle East, in the United States, and now in Europe. I would like to invite you to Kabbalah Level 1 course, Your Recreation. It's an 8 weeks journey, by which we're going to learn some powerful concepts that will give us a new perception, a new depth about our lives, using the wisdom and the tools of Kabbalah, and practice it in our day-to-day life. I would like to share with you some of the things that we're going to learn in this course. For example, we're going to learn how come sometimes happens that we see things and we think they are good for us, but it turns to be that they are not so good. And how many times happens that we don't give a chance, or we don't believe that something or someone will be good, and later on it turns to be the greatest missed opportunity. How? Why? Why is it this way? What are the two most powerful forces that act in our life that we can use and utilize it in our day-to-day? Another thing that we're going to learn, as Michael Berg shared, the purpose of creation is that we'll be happy. The purpose of creation is that we'll be fulfilled. The purpose of creation is that we'll have everything in our life, everything that we desire, everything that we deserve to have. But if we look at the world it looks like that the things are not so great. There's so many problems, so many issues, so much chaos, pain, misery. What's the purpose of creation? Why the world is the way it is? Why we go through what we go? We're going to discuss that already in class number 2. Also, how come there are things in our life that we know that are good for us, but we don't do them? And there are things that we know they are not good for us, they are bad for us, but we do them anyway. Why it's so easy to judge, to hate, not to accept, to feel bad, to feel victim, to blame, to control, to think we are better than everybody else, no one is better than us. And it's so difficult to accept, so difficult to open up, so difficult to love, so difficult to listen to somebody else. Why? What is that force that creates this illusion in our life? Another thing we're going to learn is how many times happens that we attract the same kind of people, the same kind of circumstances, and we repeat many times the same kind of mistakes. How come we are finding ourselves in one relationship, we finish that relationship, we go to another country, another place, and then it turns to be that the same kind of person with the same kind of issue comes back. Why? Why we attract the same kind of situation, and what is it there for me to learn and do? And how can I change it? And how can I attract new kind of situations? We're going to learn that. Another thing we're going to learn is some powerful Kabbalistic tools. One of them is the 72 names of God. Another is the DNA, or the 22 forces, power, energy of this universe. Another powerful tool that we're going to learn is about the Zohar. But according to the Kabbalists, it's the book that contains all the wisdom of creation, the secrets of life, the secrets of relationship, the secret of everything what we can think about, what we see and what we don't see. And now we can use this book to bring goodness, to bring powerful energy to our lives and to the world. Also, we're going to learn what's the meaning of true sharing. How many times we share with people, we do good things with others, but that goodness doesn't really stay with us. After a while, we feel empty again, we feel not fulfilled. What is true sharing? What is a lasting sharing? And finally, what Kabbalah has to say about the end of the world, about, the time we speak about right now, 2012. What Kabbalah has to say about it? What's really gonna happen? What does it mean? Is it gonna be really bad, chaotic, end of the world, or is it gonna be good? What Kabbalah has to say about it? One of the things about Kabbalah is that Kabbalah is not magic. It's not a magic pill. It's not that something that I will take and then suddenly life will change. Just like on a physical level, if I want to have strong muscles, I need to exercise the muscle. I need to stretch them. Same way spiritually. We have different spiritual muscles, such as trust, such as certainty. But when we don't practice those muscles, we get weak. Fears come in, doubts come in, worries come in, lack of self-esteem come in, low self-esteem come in. Kabbalah is a system that gives us those tools to become strong, to become with a higher level of awareness, of understanding, of seeing life in a bigger way, not just from my little world, but really from above, and really realize that I'm the cause for my creation. But as Karen Berg explained, in order to become a diamond, we need to go to that pressure. We need to do some work. And in this course, we're going to have workshops. We're going to have different exercises. One of the gifts that we will get in this course is what we call the Living Kabbalah System, which is a 23 extra sessions that you'll get, but which will give you practical tools on the day-to-day life to use and see things change for the good. But again, in order to study, in order to see results, has to be some work, has to have some effort. And as Michael Berg shared, the promise of Kabbalah is that as long that you'll study, the long that you'll do the exercises, the long that you'll do whatever it takes to acquire this wisdom and practice it into your life, there's no question you'll see results. There's no question you see things change and suddenly doors open up and you see life in a different way. I really wish that I'll see all of you or some of you in this course. Yes, it does require work. And maybe it's not for everybody. But I can definitely say the one that feel that they are willing to commit, willing to do the work, willing to commit for themselves. How many of us truly invest in ourselves, in our well-being? It's so easy to invest in so many things in life, but the most important person is you. That once we take care of ourselves, once we take care of our thoughts, of our consciousness, then life is different. Then the experiences of life are different. Then life is more powerful and beautiful. So I wish really to see everybody. It will be my pleasure. We'll meet every week, and I hope to see you there. Thank you.